What if one of the oldest looking 20p coins in your change has a detail that most people would never think to check? British 20 pence pieces have passed through millions of hands, but some dates and characteristics can make collectors stop, inspect, and take a second look. Welcome back to Change Your Life. Today's countdown features 4 United Kingdom 20 pence coins. 1983, no mint mark. 1996, no mint mark. 1982, no mint mark. 1993, no mint mark. Produced by the Royal Mint at Lanterset and made from copper-nickel, these familiar coins feature the distinctive Tudor Rose reverse design. After years of circulation, many can look dirty, scratched, worn, and completely ordinary. But ordinary looking doesn't always mean uninteresting. Collectors examine these coins for rare varieties, striking errors, die differences, unusual features, and condition details that can easily escape notice when you're simply counting your change. So before you spend another old 20p, check it carefully. Stay with us until the end, because the final coin may reveal the most fascinating detail of today's countdown. Now, let's uncover coin number 1. What if one of the oldest 20p coins in your change looks completely ordinary, but the tiny details on it tell a much bigger story? Take the 1983 United Kingdom 20 pence. It's only worth 20 pence at face value. It may be dirty. It may be scratched. It may have spent decades moving from one person's pocket to another. And if you found one today, you might simply toss it back into your change. But turn it over, and you'll see one of the most recognizable symbols in British coinage: the Tudor Rose. The 20p was first introduced in Britain on June 9, 1982, and its unusual seven-sided shape was designed to make it easy to distinguish from other denominations. The Royal Mint describes it as an equilateral curved heptagon, just like the 50p. The 1983 coin is part of that very early chapter in the history of the British 20p. And there's something fascinating about its design. The reverse features the crown Tudor Rose, with the denomination and date arranged around it. The reverse was designed by William Gardner, whose Tudor Rose design remained on the 20p until the major 2008 redesign. Now look at the obverse. You'll see Queen Elizabeth II wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara. This early 20p uses the Arnold Machin portrait, which the Royal Mint lists for 1982 to 1984. So when you're examining your 1983 coin, don't just check the date. Look at the portrait. Look at the lettering. Look at the Tudor Rose. Look at the crown. And inspect the edges. The coin is made from cupro-nickel, specifically 84% copper and 16% nickel, with a diameter of 21.4 millimeters and a weight of 5 grams. Now here's where things become important. The 1983 circulation mintage was approximately 158.46 million coins. That's a large number. So a normal, dirty, and heavily circulated 1983 20p isn't automatically a rare fortune. But that doesn't mean you should ignore it, because collectors don't look at every coin in exactly the same way. They look for condition. They look for unusual strikes. They look for recognized varieties. And they look for genuine mint-made errors. Imagine two 1983 20p coins. One has been heavily circulated for more than 40 years. Its surface is covered with contact marks. The Tudor Rose is worn. The lettering is softer. And the Queen's portrait has lost some of its original sharpness. That's exactly what you would expect from an old circulating coin. But imagine another 1983 example. Almost untouched. Sharp details. Strong original surfaces. Minimal contact marks. Suddenly, the conversation becomes very different. That's why condition matters. And there is another reason you should inspect these older 20p coins carefully. The Royal Mint confirms that the 20p's original design continued for decades, meaning these early pieces can be found with many years of circulation wear. So if your 1983 coin looks extremely worn, don't try to make it look new. Don't clean it. Don't polish the Tudor Rose. Don't use chemicals. And don't scrape away the dark areas. Cleaning can permanently alter a coin's surface. Instead, preserve it exactly as you found it. Use good lighting. Take photographs. Use magnification. And compare the coin with a normal 1983 example. Then start asking the questions that collectors actually ask. Is the lettering normal? Does the portrait look properly struck? Does the Tudor Rose show any unusual doubling? Are there cracks that appear to originate from the die? Is there a strange area that looks like a struck-through feature? Is the coin noticeably off-center? Or is what you're seeing simply damage from decades of circulation? That final question is extremely important, because damage is not the same thing as a mint error. A scratch isn't automatically valuable. A dent isn't automatically a variety. And discoloration isn't proof that something went wrong at the mint. The real question is, was the feature created during production? Or did it happen later? And with a coin this old, that distinction can be surprisingly difficult to determine. But there's another fascinating clue hiding in the 1983 date. The 20p was still very new. Britain had only introduced the denomination the previous year. So your 1983 coin comes from the second year of the 20p circulation history. It's not an ancient coin, but it is part of the early history of one of Britain's most distinctive decimal denominations. And that's why this little 7-sided coin deserves more attention than most people give it. Because sometimes, the coin that looks like ordinary pocket change is actually a tiny piece of British monetary history. The 1983 UK 20 pence is where the difference between an ordinary circulated coin and a collector-quality example becomes important. The 1983 circulation mintage is recorded at 158,463,000 coins, so a normal worn example isn't automatically rare. Numista's indicative values also show only a modest premium as condition improves. But that doesn't mean you should ignore the coin. It means you need to know what you're actually looking at. Start with the obverse. The 1983 20p uses Arnold Machin's second portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, the portrait type used from 1982 through 1984. Look at the Queen's portrait. Then inspect the lettering around it. Check the date. 1983. Now turn the coin over. This is where the traditional design really stands out. You'll see the crown Tudor Rose, with 20 pence around the design and the date split on either side. The reverse was designed by William Gardner and remained in use from 1982 until 2008. And there's something fascinating about the Tudor Rose itself. It's a symbol associated with the House of Tudor and the Union of Lancaster and York. The traditional rose combines the white inner petals associated with York with the red outer petals associated with Lancaster. So this tiny 20p carries a symbol with centuries of British history. Now check the physical specifications. The standard coin is cupro-nickel, weighs about 5 grams, measures approximately 21.4 millimeters, and has a smooth edge. That gives you another useful clue when checking an unusual example. If a coin looks dramatically different from a normal 1983 20p, don't immediately assume you've discovered something valuable. Compare it. Measure it if necessary. Check the weight. Inspect the edge. And look closely at the strike. Because a genuine mint error can be interesting. But ordinary damage is everywhere. A scratch across the rose isn't automatically an error. A dent isn't automatically a variety. What if a British 20p coin from the 1990s looks completely ordinary? But there is more than one reason a collector might stop and examine it. Take the 1996 United Kingdom 20 pence. It's a small, 7-sided coin. It carries the familiar Tudor Rose. And after nearly 3 decades of circulation, your example may be dirty, scratched, and heavily worn. At first glance, it might seem like nothing more than 20 pence. But there's a fascinating story behind this particular date. The 20p was introduced in 1982, and the Royal Mint describes it as the final denomination introduced during Britain's transition to decimal currency. Its distinctive 7-sided shape was designed to make it easy to identify. By 1996, the denomination had already been circulating for 14 years, and the classic Tudor Rose reverse was still being used. The reverse design was created by William Gardner and shows the crowned Tudor Rose surrounded by the words 20 pence. The date and the designer's initials appear around the design. Now turn the coin over. Look carefully at the Queen's portrait. The 1996 issue uses the third portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Raphael Maklauf. You can see the initials RDM beneath the portrait. Then look at the date. 1996. And that's where the investigation begins. The standard 1996 circulation coin was made from cupro-nickel, weighs approximately 5 grams, measures around 21.4 millimeters, and has a smooth edge. The recorded circulation mintage is approximately 83,163,750 coins. That's a significant number. So let's be clear. A normal, heavily circulated 1996 20p isn't automatically rare simply because it is almost 30 years old. But collectors don't stop at the date. They examine the condition. They study the strike. They compare the design. And they investigate genuine mint-made errors and varieties. Imagine you have two 1996 20p coins. The first has spent years in pockets, tills, vending machines, and coin jars. The surface is scratched. The rose is worn. The lettering is soft. The Queen's portrait has lost some detail. That's completely normal. But another 1996 coin might have been carefully preserved. Its surfaces are much cleaner. The Tudor Rose is sharp. The lettering is crisp. The portrait has strong detail. And there are very few contact marks. That second coin could have considerably more collector appeal. That's why condition matters. But there's another detail that makes the 1996 date especially interesting. The Royal Mint's records show that the 1996 20p also exists in brilliant uncirculated and proof versions, separate from the large circulation mintage. So if you find a 1996 20p that looks unusually sharp, don't immediately assume it's just a lucky circulation coin. Look carefully at the finish. Compare it with a normal circulated example. And if something seems unusual, investigate further. Now let's talk about errors. This is where collectors need to be extremely careful. A scratch across the Tudor Rose isn't automatically a mint error. A dent on the edge isn't automatically a rare variety. A strange mark on the Queen's portrait isn't automatically valuable. And discoloration doesn't prove anything by itself. The real question is, was the feature created during the minting process? Or did it happen after the coin entered circulation? That distinction is critical. Collectors may investigate genuine characteristics such as double dies, die cracks, die chips, struck-through errors, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and other recognized mint-made varieties. But each suspected feature needs to be compared against known examples. And because your coin is described as dirty, worn, and heavily circulated, there's a good chance that some unusual-looking marks are simply the result of decades of use. So don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't scrape the Tudor Rose. Don't use chemicals. And don't try to make the coin look brand new. If there's something interesting about the coin, its existing surface can be part of the evidence. Instead, photograph both sides. Use a magnifying glass or macro camera. Check the date. Study the portrait. Examine the Tudor Rose. Look at the lettering. And inspect the edge. Then compare your coin with a normal 1996 example. Because sometimes the most important clue isn't something dramatic. It's a tiny difference that only becomes obvious when two coins are placed side by side. And there's one more fascinating possibility. If you find a 1996 20p that looks exceptionally well preserved, you shouldn't automatically assume it's a normal circulation coin. There were BU and proof examples produced in addition to the circulation issue, including a silver-proof version from the 1996 Silver Anniversary Collection. That's a completely different collecting story. So the next time a 1996 20p appears in your old change, don't just look at the number 20. Look at the date. Look at the portrait. Look at the Tudor Rose. Look at the condition. And most importantly, look for anything that genuinely doesn't match a normal example. Because a coin doesn't become interesting simply because it's old. It becomes interesting when you can identify what makes that particular coin different. The 1996 UK 20 pence is a great reminder that a coin's date is only the beginning of the investigation. The standard 1996 circulation issue had a mintage of approximately 83,163,750 coins, so a normal, heavily circulated example isn't automatically rare. But there are several details worth checking. Start with the obverse. The coin carries Queen Elizabeth II third portrait, designed by Raphael David Makhlouf. The initials RDM appear beneath the portrait. Now check the date. 1996. Then turn the coin over. You'll see the crown Tudor Rose, with 20 pence around it, and the denomination beneath. The reverse was designed by William Gardner. The standard coin is cupro-nickel, weighs about 5 grams, measures approximately 21.4 millimeters, and has a smooth edge. Collectors need to slow down. If your 1996 coin is dirty and heavily circulated, scratches, dents, discoloration, and flattened details are expected. Those marks don't automatically make it a mint error. A scratch through the Tudor Rose isn't automatically doubling. A damaged edge isn't automatically a clipped planchet. And a strange-looking mark on the Queen's portrait isn't automatically a rare variety. The key question remains: was the feature created at the mint, or did it happen after the coin entered circulation? That's why comparison is so important. Take another normal 1996 20p. Put the two coins side by side. What if one of the most important British 20p coins ever released is sitting in your change right now, and most people wouldn't even realize it? Take the 1982 United Kingdom 20 pence. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary old British coin. It's small. It's 7-sided. It may be dirty, scratched, and heavily worn after more than 4 decades of circulation. And because it's only a 20p coin, many people would never think twice before spending it. But there's something special about the 1982 date. This wasn't just another year of production. 1982 was the year the British 20p was introduced. The Royal Mint states that the 20p was first issued on June 9, 1982, making it the final denomination introduced during Britain's move to decimal currency. And the shape was anything but ordinary. The 20p was designed as an equilateral curved heptagon, in other words, a 7-sided coin with curved edges. That unusual shape wasn't just for appearance. It helped people distinguish the 20p from other denominations, and also gave it a constant rolling diameter, allowing it to work in vending machines. Now turn the coin over. You'll see the crown Tudor Rose. Above it is 20 pence. Below it is the large 20. And the date is divided around the rose. The reverse was designed by William Gardner, and this Tudor Rose design remained on the 20p until the major redesign introduced in 2008. But here's where the 1982 coin gets even more interesting. Look at the date. 1982. This is the very first year of the denomination. and the Royal Mint records something unusual about the inscription. When the 20p was introduced, the wording was changed from new pence to 20 pence. That means the 740,815,1982 dated circulation coins are the only ones with that original 1982 wording history attached to the first issue. So this coin isn't just old. It represents the birth of the British 20p denomination. Now look at the obverse. You'll see Queen Elizabeth II wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara. The portrait was designed by Arnold Machin, and the Royal Mint lists Machin as the obverse designer for 20p coins from 1982 through 1984. Look closely at the portrait. The Queen's hair, the tiara, the lettering, the date, and the small details around the rim. Then turn it over again. Study the Tudor Rose, the crown, the lettering, the number 20, and the date. The standard coin is cupro-nickel, made from approximately 84% copper and 16% nickel. It weighs about 5 grams, measures approximately 21.4 millimeters, and has a plain edge. Now here's the part where collectors need to be realistic. The 1982 circulation mintage was enormous. 740,815,000 coins. So an ordinary, dirty, heavily circulated 1982 20p isn't automatically a rare treasure. But that doesn't mean it's useless to collectors. The first-year status makes it historically interesting. And collectors may still look carefully at exceptional condition, proof examples, unusual strikes, and genuine mint-made errors. In fact, references record separate uncirculated and proof issues from 1982, meaning not every 1982 20p was simply an ordinary pocket change coin. So imagine finding two 1982 20p coins. One has spent 40+ years in circulation. The Tudor Rose is worn. The Queen's portrait is soft. The fields are covered with scratches. The edge has contact marks. That's exactly what you'd expect. But the second coin is remarkably sharp. The surfaces are well preserved. The Tudor Rose has strong detail. The portrait is crisp. And the coin shows very little circulation wear. Now you've got something that deserves much closer attention. That's why condition matters. And there's another important warning. If your 1982 coin looks dirty, don't clean it. Don't polish the Tudor Rose. Don't scrub the surface. Don't use chemicals. Don't scrape away dark areas. A coin's original surface can be important when determining its condition and authenticity. Instead, preserve it exactly as you found it. Take clear photographs. Use magnification. Compare it with another normal 1982 20p. Then inspect anything that looks unusual. Could it be a genuine doubled feature? A die crack? A die chip? A struck-through area? An off-center strike? A clipped planchet? Or is it simply damage caused by decades of circulation? That final question is critical, because a scratch isn't automatically a mint error. A dent isn't automatically a rare variety. And discoloration doesn't automatically mean the coin is valuable. The real question is, was the feature created when the coin was struck? Or did it happen later? And with a coin that's been circulating since 1982, that distinction can be surprisingly difficult. But there's one final detail that makes this coin especially fascinating. You're not simply holding an old 20p. You're holding a coin from the first year of the denomination's history. The seven-sided shape, the crown Tudor Rose, the Arnold Machin portrait, the cupro-nickel composition, and the 1982 date, all belong to the beginning of the British 20p story. So the next time you find an old 20p, don't immediately spend it. Look at the date, 1982. Look at the Queen's portrait. Study the Tudor Rose. Check the lettering. Inspect the edge. And ask yourself, Am I looking at an ordinary circulated coin, or something that deserves a closer investigation? Because sometimes, the most interesting coin isn't the one with the biggest number on the price tag. It's the one carrying a piece of history that almost everyone else overlooked. The 1982 UK 20 pence deserves special attention because it represents the first year of Britain's 20p denomination. The Royal Mint records a circulation mintage of approximately 740,815,000, so an ordinary worn example isn't automatically rare. But its historical importance is difficult to ignore. This was the coin that introduced the distinctive 7-sided 20p format into everyday British currency. And that unusual shape wasn't simply decorative. It helped people distinguish the denomination by touch and sight, while its curved heptagonal form also made it suitable for vending machines. Now turn the coin over. There is the crown Tudor Rose. The design was created by William Gardner and remained the standard 20p reverse until the 2008 redesign. Look at the petals, the crown, the lettering, the number 20, and the date. Then turn it back over. The obverse features Queen Elizabeth II Arnold Machin portrait, the portrait used on 20p coins from 1982 through 1984. That gives the 1982 coin a very recognizable early 20p appearance. But here's the important part. What if a British 20p coin from the 1990s has been sitting unnoticed in an old collection for more than 30 years? Take the 1993 United Kingdom 20 pence. It may look ordinary. It may be dirty. It may be heavily circulated. The surface may be covered with small scratches from years of everyday use. But turn it over, and you'll see the familiar crown Tudor Rose. That design isn't random. The Tudor Rose is one of Britain's most recognizable heraldic symbols, and the 20p reverse was designed by William Gardner. The design remained on the denomination until the 2008 redesign. Now look at the date. 1993. This coin was produced during the era when Queen Elizabeth II's third portrait, created by Raphael David Maklauf, was being used on British 20p coins. Look carefully at the Queen's portrait. Then examine the lettering around it. And don't forget to look for the tiny RDM initials associated with the portrait designer. Now turn the coin over again. Study the Tudor Rose. Look at the crown. Look at the petals. Look at the words 20 pence. Then examine the large 20 beneath the design. The standard 1993 20p is a cupro-nickel coin, weighing approximately 5 grams, measuring about 21.4 millimeters, with a plain edge. And here's an important number. The recorded circulation mintage for 1993 is approximately 123,123,750 coins. That's a substantial production run. So an ordinary, dirty, and heavily circulated 1993 20p isn't automatically a rare treasure. But that doesn't mean you should ignore it. Because collectors don't only ask, "What year is it?" They ask, "What makes this particular coin different?" Imagine two 1993 20p coins. The first has been circulating for decades. Its Tudor Rose is worn. The lettering is soft. The Queen's portrait has lost some detail. The surface is full of contact marks. That's exactly what you'd expect. But imagine finding another 1993 coin with exceptionally sharp details. A strong portrait, crisp lettering, clear Tudor Rose details, and very little evidence of circulation. Suddenly, the coin deserves a much closer look. That's because condition can make a major difference in collector interest. And there is another interesting detail about the 1993 issue. Numismatic references record separate brilliant uncirculated and proof examples in addition to the large circulation issue. So if you discover a 1993 20p that looks almost untouched, don't immediately assume it's simply an unusually well-preserved circulation coin. Investigate the finish. compare it with a normal example. Now let's talk about something every coin hunter needs to understand. Mint errors. You might notice unusual looking doubling around the lettering. Perhaps something seems strange around the date. Maybe the edge looks different. Or perhaps there's a strange mark across the Tudor Rose. But don't get excited too quickly. A scratch isn't automatically an error. A dent isn't automatically a variety. And a damaged edge isn't automatically a mint-made mistake. The real question is, was the feature created when the coin was struck? Or did it happen after the coin entered circulation? That distinction is critical. Collectors can investigate genuine mint-made characteristics such as die cracks, die chips, double features, struck-through errors, off-center strikes, and clipped planchets. But every suspected error needs to be compared against a normal coin. And because your 1993 example is described as dirty, worn, and heavily circulated, there's a very good chance that some unusual-looking marks are simply the result of decades of use. So don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't scrub the Tudor Rose. Don't use chemicals. And don't try to make the coin look new. Instead, preserve it exactly as you found it. Take photographs of both sides. Use magnification. Check the date. Study the portrait. Inspect the Tudor Rose. Look at the lettering. And examine the edge. Then compare your coin with another normal 1993 20p. If the unusual feature still appears genuine after comparison, that's when you investigate further. There's also something fascinating about the age of this coin. The 1993 20p is now more than 30 years old. It belongs to a period when the classic Tudor Rose design was still being used on everyday British currency. And that means every surviving example carries a little piece of that era with it. But remember, old doesn't automatically mean rare. And rare doesn't automatically mean extremely valuable. The actual value of an individual coin depends on factors such as condition, variety, authenticity, demand, and whether a recognized mint error is present. Coin references specifically note that some 1993 examples with desirable strike errors can command more than ordinary pieces. So if you find a worn 1993 20p, keep your expectations realistic. But still, check it. Because the coin might be completely ordinary. Or you might notice something that deserves a second look. And that's the fun of searching old British coins. You don't know what the tiny details will reveal until you actually look. The 1993 UK 20 pence is a perfect example of why collectors should never judge a coin by its date alone. The standard 1993 circulation issue had a mintage of 123,123,750 coins, so a normal, heavily circulated example isn't automatically rare. But there are still several things worth checking. Start with the obverse. The 1993 coin carries Raphael Maklauf's portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, with the designer's initials RDM beneath the portrait. Now look at the date. 1993. Then turn it over. There is the familiar crown Tudor Rose, surrounded by the words 20 pence, with the denomination 20 underneath. The reverse was designed by William Gardner. The standard coin is cupro-nickel, weighing about 5 grams, measuring 21.4 millimeters, with a plain edge. And the coin was struck at the Royal Mint in Lantricent. Now here's where your worn example becomes interesting. If the coin has spent decades in circulation, expect scratches, contact marks, dull surfaces, and softened details. Those things don't automatically create value. A scratch across the Tudor Rose isn't necessarily an error. A dent isn't necessarily a variety. And a strange-looking mark isn't automatically something produced at the mint. The most important question remains, was the feature created during striking, or did it happen afterward? That's why comparison is so important. Take a normal 1993 20p and put it beside your coin. Compare the Queen's portrait. Compare the date. Compare the Tudor Rose. Compare the lettering. Then examine the suspicious area under magnification.